Hi guys, I've always wanted to try this style of tumbler, and so I'm experimenting. I've absolutely loved them. So I'm starting off with one of Pressing Images 16-ounce wine tumblers, and I'm going to measure around, and I'm going to find my starting and center point and mark them with a pencil lightly. And I'm going to now take a ruler and I'm going to line it up so that I have a straight line from the bottom to the top. I'm not drawing the whole line, just the top part. And that way I have now my center on both the bottom and the top, so I can do one side from the top and one side from the bottom. As you can see, you can erase very easily. I have painted this 2 coats of white paint, so I get a bright white and a nice even coat. And so I'm going to now start drawing my lines, and I'm going to make sure that they're not too pointy so that they don't look like things that they're not supposed to. So I'm going to start with kind of a rounded line, and I want to go about 2/3 to 3/4 up and down the cup. So I'm just loosely really I'm rotating the cup, and it's wiggling and drawing kind of all on its own. So you can do as many layers as you want, but make sure you vary a little bit each one, so that you're not doing exactly the same shape and the same width for every single one of them. This cup I started off with 7, but I ended up going with 8, and so when you do the bottom, it's on the opposite side, and you want to do the same thing, but you want to drag it down across the bottom. But on the bottom you want to do fairly thin lines so you can get all of them in there. And so you start off close, and then you start going a little bit bigger so that you can actually get the bottom one. You want to go up just a little higher than you bring the top one down. So if you bring the top one down 2/3, you bring up the bottom one about 3/4. My puppy decided to make a visit to see what I was doing there. So now that we have our basic shape, we're going to erase our center lines and markings so that they don't show up in the final product. And we're going to then I use Crystalc glitter glue because I find it works the best. So I'm going to use a chunky blue to pink shift opal. I'm going to use Robin's Pressing Images rose gold extra fine. I'm going to use a small gold or a medium gold chunky, I guess, and Pressing Images rose gold chunky pixie dust. You could use blackberry wine from Pressing Images, but I'm using a Merlot color that I got from somewhere else. A light gold, again with a rose gold, and then Gold Rush is Special Places, and a different sparkly white to go around the edge. So when I do this, I just do one section at a time, and I'm adding first the chunky opal. I knock it off, and then I take my fluffy brush to brush off any excess around, so that when I do my next layers, I'm going to not have that in my way. So I'm doing every other line at this point because if you can butt them up against, but I just found when I did that, for me personally, I ended up with too many gaps. I had to do too many things over again with multiple coats, and it just didn't work for me. But this part works a lot better. Excuse me, I have just getting over a bad cold. So yeah, so if I do every other one, let them dry, brush off any excess, and then come back and fill them in, I find it works a lot better than going from one section to the other and doing them wet. I just found I had too many problems with that. And Mod Podge, you can use Mod Podge. I just found that it dried too quickly, especially with doing the bigger areas. And but that's just me, because I tend to paint Mod Podge on, and with the glitter glue, it's a little It's a lot thinner actually, and so I kind of dab it on and I get a thicker coat. So if you use Mod Podge, make sure you get a thick enough coat that it's going to not dry out quickly, and go from there. But for glitter, this is my favorite thing, and it's also really great for fabric tumblers. So again, I'm skipping a line and going up to the next. I always have a hard time finding the balance between having enough information to show you and not making you watch me do this for 5 hours. So bear with me. I'm sorry. Video editing is not my strong suit, but I'm trying. So when you do the bottoms, this cup in particular has that little lip edge on the bottom. You want to make sure you get into all of the cracks and crevices on that so that you don't have any gaps when you're done. Sorry, I got some gold knocked into there. I don't want to destroy my pixie dust. And so now I'm going to go with my fine light gold. Just adds so many contrasts and depth when you're using different types of glitter as well as different colors of glitter. This is, the same basic color as I already have on there, but it's a different kind of glitter, so it makes it look different and adds depth to the project. So I'm going to do now my final of this color, and then I'm going to do my rose gold on the outside edge, just to show you that yes, you can do it against the wet, and I want that part really dry right now. So because I'm going to when I come back to do the next one, I will do the white, so I want this part to be dry and good. So I'm gonna do the rose gold on the outside edge, and again, you can see I'm just dabbing my glue on so that I get a thicker layer. And so now I'm adding this is another reason I did it now. It's like I'm adding my pretty color now, and you can see that there's a couple of gaps between the gold and the rose gold. That's okay. We're going to do something about that in later steps. So if it really bugs you, you can do a second coat after it's dry, but you can just leave it, because that's what we're going to use the Gold Rush for, is to fill in anything that is weird. So we're going to let that dry, and now we're going to brush off these chip brushes. These wide chip brushes are so great for brushing off any of the loose glitter. It's one of my favorite tools, and I use the smaller version of this for doing my wood grains. And so you can tell that I'm using a pretty pointy brush for this particular application, because it just allows me to get in better to these narrow places. So that's why I'm using that. So I'm just gonna go for it and start putting my rose gold in around my center part. I've done it with a gold chunky in the center part. It looks better and more like a geode if you can do an opal, a chunky opal, because the inside of a geode is really kind of spiky and hollow. So that kind of just adds to the effect. I've also done this cup. You'll see the pictures at the end in really colorful. Did one that was purple and green, and I did another one that's for a little girl that's pinks and purples, and it turned out nice. But this one actually looks like a real geode. So you can use your imagination. I've seen a stunning one using hot pink and turquoise. So it doesn't need to exist in nature. It's just, this is my cup, so this is what I wanted. I wanted all rose gold and gold. I just was inspired to do that, and I absolutely love this. I've had so many compliments on this cup. When I take it to the office, every single person surprisingly has said something, because they've said nothing about any of my other cups that I bring in. So it's a stunning thing, and it's actually, once you get into the flow of it, it's actually a very easy cup to make. So now I'm filling in my final gap, which is going to be my burgundy-ish kind of color. This one it's called Merlot, but it's from a different vendor. Robin's Blackberry Wine is very close. So I just liked this one just for the way it matched a little bit better, but the Blackberry Wine is very close. And you could certainly use something like that if you wanted to replicate this look. But I just find that adding that dark line just sets it right off. Like it looks great before it, but I just find it just sets it right off, and it looks so good. One thing I will mention, you'll notice that I'm doing the whole ring all at once. You don't want to stop and start, because then you're opening yourself up to putting gaps and stuff in, because you're putting your fresh glue where glue that's drying and glittered already is. So you want to do the whole thing. So you want to make sure it's thick enough. Once it's all dry, you brush off any excess. If you have any big holes or anything, go through and double up and add another coat to it, so that it's all nice and even. Now you can, if you want to, at this point, and I think if I did this again, I would spray paint a clear coat right now over this before I did my white part, but I'm just charging ahead and doing it. I got a few little pieces of rose gold into my white, but it's my cup, so I don't care. But there is the possibility of that, so if you really wanted to seal that, I don't know what was up with that weird my face, but I can't find it to cut it out, so there was my face. So now I'm going to do the white part, and I'm using a wider Teflon brush. Teflon brushes are actually the best for doing gluing and whatnot. So I'm just going to come right up against my edges and carefully glue it all, but I want to make sure I have a good enough layer that when, again, I don't want to stop and start. I want to just have a nice, smooth, even layer, because if I leave ridges in here, I'm going to see the ridges in the dried product, and I don't want to do that. So most of my time here is spent smoothing it out so that that's not going to happen. And I want to make sure that my coat stays wet everywhere, so that when I apply the white, it sticks everywhere, so I don't have to come back and fix anything. So, and this is just a white sparkly white. You could use gray. A light gray is the color of natural geodes. So you could use gray, you could use brown, you could use black, you could use whatever color you want to. I've used pink. You can use whatever color you want to for your, this is basically representing the outer rock portion of the geode. And so now I'm going to go through and I'm going to, you know, those little gaps that I told you that can happen, I'm going to fill them in. I'm going to add glue in those spots. And I'm going to also randomly place this nice big chunky Gold Rush mix. And I'm just I'm gonna see if I can fix anything by doing that, and do that first, and then I'm gonna just randomly place in different spots areas that I think it looks good. It just adds a depth to your project, and you may or may not see me blow, but I can't use my my brush here, so I will blow off the excess glitter, and just so I can know where it's sticking and where it's not, and if I need to do anything else, but I'm being very random here, which is really hard for me to do, but I am working on it. I'm just randomly placing it, and where the white glitter is, I know that the glue is wet there still. So if you do this at this point, just make sure you're putting your glue on the outer ring instead of on the white wet glue. But yes, I'm quite happy with it. Just adds interest and depth and whatnot. We have one more step to take, but first we're going to seal this really well. I used Quick Coat from CCDIY to seal it in really good. You could use polyacrylic. I would do 2 coats of clear spray paint. So if you've already done 1 coat, you can just do 1 here, but do 2 coats in total of clear spray paint just to lock everything in. You don't want to have anything move from where you've carefully placed it. So seal it really well. Like I said, I use CCDIY Quick Coat for this process, and just let it. I did a really good coat dabbing it on as opposed to spreading it, and then just let it sit and spin for half an hour or so until it dried, and then you epoxy it 2 layers before you can do the next step. So you want to make sure it's nice and smooth before we move on. It looks fantastic. So now clearly my camera turned off on me, and I am a step ahead here. So I'm using a Posca fine point paint pen, and I am outlining every ring with white, and I'm skipping over the chunky gold parts, so the line is broken. And now I'm going to use the Posca fine point black pen on every other ring, I'm stepping in here. I think stepping out would probably work a lot better for me, just because of sticking your hands in things and the awkwardness of that. It does dry fairly quickly though. So I want the outside edge to be my gold metallic pen, but so I'm going into the next, and then I'm going to do every other line in the black, and I'm just following along. It doesn't have to be exact. It doesn't have to be perfect. You want to be careful not to go over and blur or black out the white, but the paint pen does leave a little bit of a ridge to follow, so that's helpful. And if it's squiggly, if it doesn't line up perfectly with the glitter, that's fine too. It doesn't have to. Just try your best to follow the line as best you can, and how it comes out is how it comes out. That's pretty much it. And so as soon as I get this black all done, I'm going to go in with a gold leaf pen. So I have to do the other side in black. I don't know why I sped everything else up, but I didn't speed this part up. But it just sets it all off. Like I find it just does such an amazing job of bringing the geode to life. One of them, the one on the title page, I gifted to my cousin's daughter for her birthday, and she's a biology scientist that works with the earth, and she said it almost looked like an earth diagram to the core of the earth. So these Posca pens are a lot more fun than I thought they would be. So this is actually a gold leaf pen. You can also use, on the one I did silver, I used a silver metallic Sharpie. So you can do that, but these ones are just a little bit shinier than that. And so I'm going to do the outside edge, and again I'm skipping over the chunky gold paint, and somehow I missed the outside edge there. I don't know why I did that, but it's still that way. So I didn't really notice it until I started drinking out of it and went, hey, where's my gold line? I don't know where my gold line is there. Sometimes you have to pump them in the middle. But yes, and I got this gold pen at a local art supply store. I'm sure you could find a gold leaf pen on Amazon, but it just sets it off and it's so super shiny. Sorry, I'm a little off frame for this part, but you've seen me go. So I'm just continuing to draw the same way that I was, just tracing around every other part and occasionally pumping the paint back into the tip. With these foiling pens, you can either do it really wide or you can use the corner to get a finer line, which is what I am doing here. I tried to actually find a rose gold metallic pen, but the one that was at the art supply store, the lady said that they come out really quite pink as opposed to rose gold, and I didn't think that would go very well. So I went with a gold because, there's gold in here too. So it goes. I just didn't trust Amazon to order another one, but doesn't it look fabulous? I love this cup so much. I've gotten so many compliments on it. And yes, it's a wine tumbler. I don't drink wine. I drink coffee and tea. These 16 ounce, they're perfect. It kind of fits in my cup holder in my car because I have a fairly big one, but there it is, all finished up. I used a rose gold textured vinyl, and so in here are the others that I created. Like I said, you can just use your imagination, and if you want to